pretty casual.
Yeah,
sleeves rolled up and everything. Hey, I'm good.
You're on the ball today. I know. I better roll them down.
There you go.
Right, what I've been trying to figure
go.
out, I can't really come up with anything else.
It's a good thing.
No, it is.
At a certain age, that's a good thing.
I actually have a T-shirt.
How often do you wear it?
When I'm at the Lake Powell,
Yes.
I have to pump out
Oh, yeah.
I wear it. That's a fun opportunity.
I'm sure it is. I can just put it on Facebook.
So what were you saying, Ron?
No, I was just saying, I've thought of every possible, what else we could do, and I just.
If there is not a new cell, it's kind of like you have to leave it to people to keep proving.
And the only real thing is if you read through 26 on an R1 zone, it talks about no boarding houses or something else. Now, I'm not sure.
Well, but if it's a short-term rental, it's fine.
That's what I'm getting the definition. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. If it looks feasible, but because it told them that we have 10% or less of R1 zoning in the entire city.
You really think it's that?
I don't know.
Let me text me when you find that out.
But if it is, it's going to be up on the hill, where you live. I live. All of Mesa Hills is R2. Zone already developed it as R1, but it's R2 zone originally. So I don't know. But I agree with you. I keep telling them it's just hard to. And we keep government just not telling this one's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many of these are going to
and the fear is that every house will come up.
That's not going to happen. So.
It's just like the fear that everything is going to turn into lights. How are you, Mr. Iden? You did, huh? I did know that. Huh? I haven't made it back there for years. I wouldn't go out of my way to go there, actually. So are you the one that's involved with this Altamira property? Okay. So it's all just.
That one and then this was my other one.
Yeah. So, okay.
If I only knew what went through your office. Or out of your office.
An assisted living center. He's considering.
I just wrote it off.
Two. I don't know if he's even talked to you. I'll see him tomorrow.
Get tired of some of them. Just what's the time?
Yes, they were going to change.
That is continued.
One more year.
Hi, Terry. Good. How are you? Well, by this clock, it's
Oh, that's true. I still have 5 more minutes.
yeah.
I have to remember that. About the time I count on that, they'll fix it.
I haven't seen.
Hello. Bye.
Yes.
Morning, Paul.
All right.
Read your deadbeat packet yet? Envelope from Mr. Carl Palmer.
Is or is not, did you say?
I pledged last
We're
time.
unprogressive.
I pledge.
Scott, will you pray for us?
No, but I will.
I've done it since you've done it, so
We gotta get more.
yes, we do. Where is the religion in this town?
Every week and remind us.
And they don't, and so they just miss it. Well, yeah.
I would be happy to. I would be honored to do it.
No, you wouldn't.
Thank you for stepping in.
He's become very political.
He's a way bigger man than us.
I know, I got the email. I wrote that.
I'm not on any of this text.
Oh,
It's just when I saw it earlier.
yeah, I wrote back to it, so. Oh, crap. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
It was good. You're almost, it was really.
Because usually those trainings about, no, they don't.
Well, I feel like a slacker because I haven't had any council meetings for so long.
We paid for 3.
How about all the complainers?
We need to spend.
We're not sure. Maybe there's more things you guys are trying to hide.
I would not put it past them.
How do I get on that list?
All right. You get to.
I'm assuming they'll explain.
Okay. Are you ready?
Just like school.
Okay. Welcome to our city council meeting for tonight, August 1st, 2018. We will have an invocation by Councilman Phillips, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Hartley.
Our gracious Father, as we become before you today, we ask that you watch over these proceedings, that you will help guide our decisions, that we might do the best in the interests of all the citizens of this community. We ask you to watch over our first responders, our police officers, emergency personnel, fire department, as they work diligently to protect all of us to live in this great community. We ask, Father, that you continue to provide the moisture that we so desperately need. And once again, we pray that decisions made here will be for the best benefit of all the people of Cedar City. We say these blessings in thy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will now move on to our agenda order approval. Are there any items the council would like changed from the published agenda? And if not, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go to council business.
I have one thing Lieutenant Millett, maybe this is something, I could bring up with you as well, but don't we have a meeting with the SUU with President sometime coming up? I'm going to be gone for that. And I was wondering if you could pass something along in that meeting, Mayor, but I was coming up Highway 56 yesterday about noon, and at the intersection of Airport Road and 56, there was a young Chinese gal. She was probably a student, and she was coming. She was going eastbound and turned right in front of an oncoming car, and they barely missed each other. And then she did a complete 360 in the intersection. She obviously didn't know how to drive or had never driven. And I think that some of these students that are coming to SUU are getting cars and driving, and they don't, and maybe I'm just wondering if the university could maybe grab some of these foreign students that come and talk to them a little bit about our laws and vehicles and driver's licenses and things. Right? I mean, could have been a really bad accident yesterday. And
It's probably a good idea.
would that be something to be appropriate maybe in that
Yeah,
meeting?
I can bring it up.
Bring up? Okay. And I've seen it more than that. I mean, there's been other, have you run into that a little bit, Lieutenant?
A few years ago, we had.
You're going to have to come talk in the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Keith Millett, lieutenant for the police department. A few years ago, we had some students that had little scooters, and they were not ones you had to license because they were under 50 cc's, but they would just cut across traffic, go up the sidewalks, go all over. So we had to kind of rule them in a little bit and kind of educate them a little bit. So yeah, I could see that may be an issue, but we can help with that as well if they need us to.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one thing I would just like, and I know this is a budgetary issue, so we'll have to see where this goes. And it probably, I don't know where it lands in leisure services or where, and I'm sorry to those folks. I seem to always land in their world, but we don't have a single bike rack, as far as I know, in the downtown area of Cedar City. And if we're really trying to encourage more activity and more walking and more bicycling, I'm wondering if it's something that we could at least consider trying to, on a test basis, perhaps having 1 or 2 bicycle racks placed in some of our parking areas or something like that. It did come up in our downtown parking authority meeting last week, and I said I would bring it here and at least bring it up for discussion and see where it would lead us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Is there anything else? Ken Nelson, our new Leisure Services Director, is not here, so I can't really embarrass him. But if you do happen to see him before the end of today, it is his 50th birthday.
I suspect that's why he's not here.
Yes, which is why he's not here. But that's a big enough one that I told him I was going to give him a hard time if he was here, so.
I was with him today in a meeting, and he said, if anybody else brings something else or tries to bring it to my attention, they're done.
Uh-oh.
To be fair, his wife gave me permission,
Yeah.
so
His office was full of black balloons. So
yeah, it's
Yeah,
good for him.
trailed to his office. It was awesome.
Wow. That's so fun.
All right, we will now move on to staff comments.
Brian Dangerfield, Director of Events. Just wanted to let you know, last night we had a kind of a door-to-door campaign putting these on people's doors that are along the route. I expected maybe 10 people to show up, and we had probably 40 to 50 people. And so these have been put on people's doors that are along the route or within the circuit for the Tour of Utah. It's going to happen on August 7th. And I've gotten a lot of calls about, concern about street parking. And the people that are inside the circuit, if they're on the route, we need to have their vehicles and trailers off the street. But if they're not on the direct route, they don't need to do that. And so I've been trying to clarify that with phone calls and emails and on Facebook. But these are pretty bright. If you didn't see those,
Clarify the difference between pink and orange, because I received a pink one.
Yes. Pink means that you're close to the circuit that's going to be closed down in the afternoon. And then in the morning, it's going to be a really quick ride up. It literally will take the riders, when they start by the SUMA building at 10:40 in the morning, they'll be up down 56 and up past the temple by, it only takes them 5 minutes to get there. So those roads will only be closed down for merely minutes. We're saying 15 minutes, just kind of give them a little buffer to close the road down, clear them out. And as soon as they go by, the roads will open. It'll be a rolling closures, they call it. And so that's why you didn't get an orange one, is that you'd be kind of locked down a little bit further.
Circuit.
So, and one of our council members was a course marshal last time and dealt with some folks that needed to get out. And we try to work with people to get them through the circuit, but we just can't have any cars T-boning the cyclists or the other way around. It just not look good on live television.
I was literally keeping a mother from her children.
Oh, you.
I know it's me.
All the time I thought it was the White House. Can you tell me how are we doing on volunteers?
We're still trying to figure out what you just said.
Well, if you can't figure it out, I'm not going to repeat it.
Okay.
You
We,
know you're being recorded live.
I do know that.
Okay.
we
Had to
still
bring a
need,
little levity into the meeting.
we still need some course marshals, and we know I had 10 people show up today, and they
Good.
could still sign up online. We're going to have a volunteer meeting tomorrow at 6 over in the festival hall. And then there'll be some that will be starting on Saturday with the team presentation and the fun that we'll have with the kickoff party. And then most of them will show up on Tuesday morning, and they'll get their the swag, they call it, from the tour of Utah, and they'll be sent out on their assignments. But yeah, we still need more. As you look on, the route, that's a pretty big area to go up on Lay Hill and around and have a lot of people and driveways, and just making sure that cars don't innocently interact with the Peloton.
Yeah.
When they go around.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
All right. Are there any other staff comments? No. Okay, we'll move on to our public agenda with our public comment portion. If there's anyone that would like to address an item that's not on the agenda.
Good evening, all. My name is Tom Jett. I guess I'm getting better.
You are learning. I'm impressed.
Medication's helping. I was in our fair community to the South St. George yesterday for a short time, and I'd never seen this. And it's interesting that Mr. Phillips brings this up this evening. They have a thing called Lona Bikes, where I'm assuming it's exactly what it says. You borrow bikes. I don't quite know how the system works, but whenever we're looking at this bike rack type thing, maybe we could see what I saw them out in front of St. George. I saw them out by the new refurbished Tabernacle building. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just at the college. I saw them downtown up near the courthouse. They were 4 different, I can't think of the fourth place I saw them, but I thought, wow, that's kind of they're unique looking bicycles.
Private company that does that.
Oh, okay. It's for a profit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because you rent the bike for a profit for a certain amount of time, and then you can return it to and rack it one of the different locations.
Oh, okay.
So it's a for-profit company that does them.
Yeah, I had no idea. Thank you for educating me on that. The second thing is I was eating out a couple nights ago with my lovely bride, and I overheard a couple talking to, I'm assuming they're local because they lived here. They were talking about they were coming in from out of town, and they got pulled over by one of our local police officers. And the gentleman was mentioning how absolutely polite. He said, I wish they were like that where we come from. And how absolutely polite this officer was to pull them over. I don't know if they got a citation or what, but they were just mentioning how polite our public servants were to this individual.
Good.
And so that's really nice to hear that we're sending a very welcoming feel to this community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I enjoyed your levity.
Right.
With those bike rentals, there's life insurance as well. In the heat down there.
Right. Are there any other public comments? Okay, then we will move on to our business agenda with our public portion. Item number 1, a public hearing to consider a general land use amendment from central commercial to medium density residential for property located at 75 East Altamira Avenue hey, yes, welcome, come up. I don't know who's coming up.
Yes, Bob Platt with Platt and Platt, but I think you're going to do this, Greg, aren't you? Yeah, go ahead. Well, this is up at the old hospital, the old. Well, actually, if you've been around here long enough, there's 2 old hospitals. But this is the first,
the newer of the
old
old
hospital. Yeah, there you go, Altamira and 75 East. So, the proposal is to make this right here and this right here R22 so they can build some twin homes. Greg, chip in if you want. But this had a very resounding positive recommendation from the Planning Commission. That's over 2. I might just add.
Will you state your name for the record?
Kent Heidemann.
Thank you.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
And this has been a maintenance nightmare for us. And one day Greg Stradling came to me and said, you know, we need to do something about this. What if we do twin homes? And we've talked to a lot of the neighbors, and everyone we've talked to has been excited about it. It improves the value of their property if we put something in nice, and reduces the amount of water that we'll use, which should be helpful as far as the city's concerns, water concerns. And we intend to put some nice units there that I think will look very nice and just be a good project. So that's all I have, unless there are questions.
Okay.
At the planning commission meeting, there was a handful of citizens that did show up. They were all supportive of this.
Which is unusual, of course.
Yeah, no, it looks like a great improvement. So thank you.
Are there other questions or comments from the council?
No.
Okay. If not, then we will open the public hearing on this item. If there is anyone that would like to address the council. Okay, we will close the public hearing and we'll move this on to our action agenda. Okay, item number 2. Public hearing to consider a zone change from central commercial to medium density residential for property located at 75 East Smyrna Avenue.
Bob Platt again. This is just the second part of this. One is to amend the general plan, and then one is to go ahead with the zone change. So this is a zone change request.
Okay, anything you want to add?
So I just want to make sure the area where the old hospital is located was changed from R3 to general commercial?
Central commercial.
Central commercial, I mean, excuse me. Is that correct? And now we're reverting it back to a proposal to move to R2 too.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
West density.
Right.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions from council? Okay, then we'll open the public hearing. There's any comments? Okay, we will close the public hearing and move this to our action agenda. Item number 3, consider vicinity plan for the Crescent Hill Phase 2 subdivision, 2800 West, south of Gen Pack.
Arlo Fossen with Go Civil Engineering. And mayor and council, what we've got is just the pointer. So just south of Gen Pack, we've got the
Long one.
The pen.
Yeah.
Oh, that works.
Yeah, it's up there.
That works. They both work.
Oh, those both work.
Wow.
Do you want to place
Have red
lightsabers?
or
Green.
Or lightsabers here. So yeah, just south of Gen Pack, we've got another phase. So we've got phase 1 that nearly filled up. Originally, this was slated as going more of an R1, bigger lots, but phase 1 was such a big hit with these smaller lots. It's still very nice homes. It's an R21, so it's still just a single family home, just smaller lots, less yard to take care of. And they were big hit and filled up really quick. So we decided to go with that again for phase 2 on just a little bit more of it.
Are there any questions, comments? Anything to add? Okay. Are you okay with this going on the consent?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Consider a vicinity plan for the GLC subdivision, 1065 South Main Street.
Bob Platt again. Yes, this is a proposed 3-lot subdivision at the intersection of basically where Mountain View Drive, as you go west, and then it turns 90 degrees to the south. Mr. Carter owns this property right here. We've been here with zone changes and all this kind of stuff. This is the very south end of his property. It's zoned R2. Proposal is to do a 3-lot twin home subdivision. Of course, twin homes are allowed in an R2. Zoning's in place. That's the situation.
All right. Are there any comments, questions from the council?
It's like a great plan.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I think it'd be a nice improvement, actually, that neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I totally agree.
I would think you probably would.
Well, I'm biased.
Yeah.
But just, I'll mention one thing. The precursor, the next item is what Kit's going to talk about. This is easement right here, right, Kit?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, I guess
So
I'm
with this one, we're good with this going on consent?
Yeah.
All right. Consider an easement agreement with GLC Properties for a city storm drain through the property of the new Culvert Restaurant at 1065 South Main Street.
Okay, this is one of our 4 storm drain projects that we've been doing this year. This is the last one. And in the past, when we've got some heavy rain showers, there's some drainage that comes right down through here and goes down through these twin homes. There's a couple of those twin homes that it goes right through them and end up with some significant damage. So this storm drain project is going to go ahead and catch all that drainage that goes this direction and route it into a storm drain that Dr. Carter's agreed to give us an easement for right down the south side of his property, and then it'll drain into the drainage system when it hits Main Street. So on part of this easement agreement, we went ahead and had an appraisal done on the value of the easement. Appraisal came back as for a payment of $3,500. Dr. Carter has agreed to it in the agreement that if we'd put in $3,500 worth of curb gutter and sidewalk in front of his property that is required. He's the one that's putting in the Culver's restaurant out there. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to put curb gutter and sidewalk in front of that restaurant. And we basically traded installing that curb gutter and sidewalk for the easement.
Okay. Okay.
All being
done at fair value.
Any comments or questions from the council?
Seems like it's a good plan.
Okay.
Kit, do you know on that south side of Main Street, is there any plans for them to get rid of that frontage road like they've done on the other side?
The only way they get rid of that frontage road is if the fronting property owners want to purchase it from UDOT. I've talked to Dr. Carter several times about purchasing just the part in front of his property. UDOT just won't abandon it and give it back to the property owners. They have to purchase it. So it just gets vacated piece by piece as people
He's not
develop.
going to do it at this time then?
Well, I think he's considering it.
Okay.
Definitely, as they put in these expensive businesses out there, they definitely want good access off Main Street, and that frontage road doesn't provide it. So it's in their best interest to try to obtain that.
Okay, hopefully so. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? We good with this on the consent?
Yes.
Consider final plat approval for the Pioneer Center Commercial PUD 1166 South Sage Drive. It's been a while.
Good evening. Tim Watson with Watson Engineering. Mayor and council. We are in the final stages of the final plat, not the vicinity plan for Pioneer Center PUD. We've turned in the CC&Rs today and paid the fees. We are ready for your positive approval for the subdivision of the commercial existing building there where Pioneer Floor Coverings and Brody's Mexican restaurant is located just off of Sage Drive.
The legal department's received everything we need to move forward.
Can you help the junior councilman better understand this? So,
What's your question?
well, we're creating this PUD because of why?
Basically, he wants to condominiumize the building so he can sell off each unit individually.
Right.
So they can have
if
separate
Brody's wanted
owners.
to buy their section, they can buy it.
Okay. I thought that was the case. I just wanted to clarify that. And does this in any way tie in with the road that is connected to this property? Not on Sage Drive, but the interior road?
So the parking
The one
lot-
that's in really terrible condition?
So it's still, all of the improvement that's tied into the or the property boundary is now part of an HOA. So they will set up, because it's, I don't know, it's not an HOA, but it's a.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Well, yeah.
It's not a homeowners association, but it's a
That's
property management.
Yeah.
They will come in and it will be their responsibility to maintain all of the common space in there, whether it's improving the parking lot and the roadways that they have access to. That's up to them. But it is all private off of Sage Drive.
Who's responsible for the piece of
Right there?
parking lot
You're
next to
talking about the wingers
between Wingers
and the gym where all the potholes are.
Yeah.
All I can say is it's not my client.
You take your life into your own hands, driving.
But who is responsible, I guess? For
The
that?
property owners. I
Property-
don't know who they are. I don't know if
private
it's
property
wingers.
owners.
I don't know where those property lines go. Haven't looked into it.
Because that's
Can we find that out?
literally a dangerous
bad.
place. to
It's
drive.
terrible.
So Scott,
Unfortunately, it's private property.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that the HOA that will manage this will have the same.
Anything to do with that?
Well, they won't have anything to do with that for sure, but they won't have the same aesthetically unpleasing effect on their parking lot.
That
They
was
will-
a
they will
very
collect,
politically correct
Is that
way to
good?
say that. Yeah,
Good.
that was.
They
You're
would-
you're getting more polished.
Oh, thank you.
So maybe yes.
Council Adam, did you say something about that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
like you said, they'll collect a fee.
All right. Are there any other
Yeah.
questions related to this item?
And it will go in there.
Thank you for that clarity.
We
I
good if
appreciate
this
it.
goes on the
Thanks for the
consent?
question.
Thanks, sir.
Can I ask, did you move it to consent?
No, for you, no.
Would you please?
It's going to consent. Yes.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Carter, did you have a question?
Carter Wilkie, just for your guys' information, I had a neighbor that was very upset about that. And so she knew I was a realtor, and her and I looked into it. It's a private family out of St. George that owns that piece. I could get you their contact info if you'd like. I do have it at home. So yes, it's a private family out of St. George that owns
would like
that
it.
piece. At least they did 6 months ago when I looked into it. So we tried contacting them, no response. I had a neighbor that was super upset and thought she'd take on the world, and that's where we got with it. So
yeah, thank you.
All right. Item number 7, consider wrap tax approvals for arts.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I'm Joanne Bratton, and I'm the chair of the arts portion of the RAP boards. And I'm going to go through, are you trying to pull up the spreadsheet, Tyler? Oh, no. Okay. So we had 14 groups apply for money. We had a budget of $193,426, and we had $260,271 in requests. Do you guys have copies of this?
You've seen it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So do you want me to go through it in detail? Yes, no?
Well, I would just like to know, maybe not in detail, but just sort of overview, because clearly, everybody has a different opinion on things, and sort of how did you come to the consensus, and but in general terms, I don't think.
Okay.
Whatever
So,
you feel.
there were a variety of factors that we considered. Some were like for each group, how many people participated in the group, how widespread is their audience, and the impact that they have on the city. So, for example, Utah Shakespeare Festival asked for $65,000, and we're recommending $62,000 for them, which might seem high, but they got $10,000 less dollars from TRT this year than they got last year, and they're in the black this year. And so we're trying to make sure that they stay whole because of the economic impact that they have on the city. Because of all these arts organizations, obviously that has the highest impact. So those were the considerations primarily. I can answer any questions about individual ones if you want.
What is Anomaly? I don't even know what that is.
So Anomaly is the UFO festival.
Ah.
And this was the second year that they had asked for money, and the second year that the group decided that we would not award them money. There was quite a rich discussion about it. because they do bring people into town and they do have an impact on tourism. But the thought was that this board's, this tax's responsibility is not tourism. It's really to promote the arts and culture in Cedar City, and that for what they're trying to do, that they would be better served to approach Maria Twitchell in the tourism office for help from perhaps TRT moving forward. So that was what they were. All of the groups, there were no new groups requesting money. It was the same body of groups. We were very pleased that most groups, especially the newer ones like the children's musical theater, have put themselves in the black. They've really approached other organizations. They've gotten sponsors so that they're not dependent on RAP tax. One of the things we looked at was what percentage their request was of their budget, of their income, to try and make sure that they weren't totally dependent on RAP. Other questions?
No, it looks like to me you did a good job with obviously a very impossible situation. Councilman Hartley, is there anything that we need to?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a good summary, and
okay.
You led the discussions very well. Do you have a
Oh, I'm just going to say, I appreciate what you guys do. It takes
Yeah.
a load off of us.
Thank you.
You guys do a great job.
Well, everybody on the group is very dedicated and spends an awful lot of time really evaluating things. So we appreciate your support.
I would say that
Thank you.
Our community is very lucky and fortunate to have these kinds of organizations that work, and has been noted in numerous times. A good deal of this comes back to the city through rentals to the Heritage Theater.
Absolutely. Yeah. Over 50% of this RAP money goes back to the Heritage Center.
Yeah.
So it's, it stays in the city. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question on the repair and replacement fund, where we're at with that. Is that, I'm sorry to spring that on you. I didn't, just curious how that's going. Has it been working out well for what it was intended to do? Or?
No one asked for it this year, and I actually went and spoke to Steve Decker this afternoon to double check why, because I thought you might ask. And he said that the Heritage Center felt like they had nothing pressing this year, and they wanted to let the money build up for a future request. That was what I heard. I don't know what Tyler might add to that.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. It's when it has been requested, funds have come from that to repair city facilities.
How much do we have built up?
The balance.
Come on, Jason. You're supposed to know this right off the top of your head.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
We did provide this, but then I didn't think any more about it. But
oh, you're good.
There's a few components to the arts fund balance. Some is excess tax, some is interest, and some is intentional allocation to the reserve. But there's probably $100,000 in the arts portion in the fund balance. So.
And if you remember, in our budget, we, out of the general funds, had to do our portion of the festival hall roof.
Right.
With the county doing the other part, and the boilers.
I do remember that.
So.
Those really sexy things.
I know.
Aren't they?
It's like I always say when I have to repair a roof, it's like I can't wear a roof. I can't take a trip to roof. Okay. Any other questions? Can we move this to consent?
This one is, do we do it by resolution?
By resolution.
Yeah, so it has to go on the action agenda,
I mean, okay.
just
Okay,
because of
thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Joanne.
much.
Okay. Our next item, consider RAP tax approval for Park and Rec.
So Mari, I don't know if you didn't probably plan on speaking, but.
What?
Okay.
Sorry, it's on my phone. I didn't plan on it. I'm Mari Blazard. Renan knows. Do you have questions, or do you want me to present each one?
No, again, my only question is maybe a couple of them that weren't funded, maybe why they weren't funded?
So Tyler might have to explain it better than I do.
Yeah, so there were 3 that went unfunded. The first one was AYSO. My understanding, the reason why the board did that is because about 4 years ago, we funded nets and goals as well. Part of that agreement was that they would maintain and operate them, keep them in working condition. And the board just felt like, hey, we've given this to you in the past. You're supposed to maintain them. We're not going to replace them with brand new ones. That's kind of on you. Is that kind of accurate.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
was accurate.
But don't nets wear out?
Yeah, but they said they would keep them up.
Yeah, that was the,
Okay.
that took old digging. I've been here too long, brought that up.
And there also was some discrepancy between whether the other organization is using it or not. One of them was here and she came up to me after and said, we don't use those nets. So because they're not shared as
see.
well as we thought they would be, that was also part of it.
Yeah.
Is this information going to be shared back with them so they understand the reasons for the no funding?
I haven't yet, but I have his email. I can let him know. Yeah. I think one of the other concerns was the enrollment numbers were down quite a bit. There's just that was one of the initial questions the board had.
Thank you.
Then with the other two, the Glacier and the Southern Utah Sports Academy. So what's different with Parks and Rec from Arts is that in the Parks and Rec, it has to be a publicly owned entity. So the Glacier and the Southern Utah Sports Academy, they're privately owned. So in the past, when that's happened, we have sometimes made agreements to do a public-private partnership agreement. And we've done that with AYSO, where we say, okay, you don't really fit the definition, but you allow us to use the nets for the summer games, and you allow the city to use them when we need them, and you share with the other soccer organizations, and we'll all get along. Well, what the Glacier and the Southern Utah Sports Academy were requesting were equipment that wasn't going to be able to be available to the public. It's not something that the city would ever take over and use. There just wasn't a general purpose that would benefit the public in general. So for those reasons, they didn't really fit the definition, and the board didn't feel like they agreed with that as well.
We'd love to, though. We wish we could. It just
Yeah. 8 good programs, not just to be able
Really
to
good
flourish,
programs.
but I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there
Yes,
any
thank you very
additional
much.
comments or questions? Okay, we'll put this on the, thanks. Hey, and thanks for presenting when you didn't know you were.
Thank you.
All right, we'll put that on the action agenda. Okay, we'll move to our staff portion with item number 9. Consider the purchase of a backhoe for Parks and Cemetery.
Wade Orm, Parks Division Head. So as in the packet, we have leased backhoes in the past. In the last 5 or so years, the leasing for a backhoe has skyrocketed. The state leasing used to be very inexpensive for us. It used to be around $1,200 a year. This next year, it would have been $8,600 for the same backhoe. With the discounts that we get for being a municipality through the state bidding or state contracting, we decided it would be in our best interest to purchase one at that price after 10 years. If it actually stayed the same price, which I'm pretty sure it wouldn't, the lease would, they continue to go up. We actually will save money in purchasing of a backhoe. After 10 years or whatever, if we need to feel like we need to, we can sell it and retain some of our investment in the equipment instead of continually leasing and not retaining any investment. So the ones that we looked at, we found a JCB backhoe. It's a compact one. It's narrower. It helps us in the cemetery for the row spacing. Some of the backhoes that are bigger, it's harder to get the machine into position. It had some nice features that made it easier to dig in confined spaces that we have. And so we went with that. As you saw in the packet, we went through a state bid contract in Salt Lake and also got a bid from Overson's Farm Equipment. Overson's was the cheaper bid. So we'd like to request that we purchase backhoe through Overson's.
Are there any other comments?
My only question was, if I read that correctly, Wade, that both bids originally came in over budget.
Over budgets, yes. So the two things that was on that when I first initially got guesstimations from companies, there was no extended warranty and the new pricing. So the things it removed was the extended warranty, the 5-year, 5,000 hours. was almost $6,500. And then to get a 2019 model instead of a 2018 model was $2,000. So those things didn't really seem to, they were nice things that we would hope for, but not necessary.
But did both vendors have an opportunity to rebid? I guess is my question.
We didn't send back to both because Oversons had already beat them on the initial bid. So we just went back with them and said, hey, you were the low bidder, but we need to adjust to make sure we fit in our budget.
Okay, and we're okay with that? I
So-
mean, that meets everything legally for us? Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank
All right. We're good with this on the consent? Perfect.
Move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank goodness you got that down.
Hey,
Ryan.
No hesitation.
I don't
anymore.
hesitate
None.
at all.